Alright, hello. This is my Q&A video. I asked you guys to send me any questions that you wanted me to answer, and I got an overwhelming response, so thank you so much. I'm gonna try and answer every question that I got, actually, so the answers are gonna be pretty short. And also, a few of you guys asked similar questions, so I tried to group them together. So, here we go. Okay. Do you identify as non-binary? Yes, I do. I identify as a non-binary person and also a person on the trans spectrum. How do you feel about labeling your gender? I think that labeling my gender is really helpful just so that other people can try to understand me better, especially in relation to themselves if they're trying to figure out their gender as well. What ignorant questions do you get because you're androgynous? I've actually been really fortunate to not get a lot of ignorance, especially because I started exploring my gender when I was a little bit older, so I actually haven't really gotten any. I think that most people are a little bit embarrassed to ask questions, so they usually err on the side of silence instead of ignorance. How has being androgynous affected your love life? I really like this question. It has affected my love life in that I need to be with somebody who is very comfortable with dating somebody super feminine and super masculine, and that's something that's pretty difficult for certain people or people who just aren't attracted to both of those things. When did I start questioning my gender? It was actually, I mean, my entire life, but I didn't really have vocabulary around it, and it really started happening in 2012 when I was studying in London. How long did it take me to figure out where I fit the most? I think that where you fit the most is a process. I think I'm still learning. I don't know if there was like any specific time where I was like, this is where I fit. I mean, recently this year, this summer, I made a video about being bigender, which is also one of these following questions. I think that that's where I fit the most. When did you figure out that you were bigender? Probably same answer. How did you discover the non-binary world? How did you come out as non-binary? I discovered the non-binary world probably when I was going to Smith. I went to Smith College, so yeah, that was probably when I was introduced to the idea of more than two genders, and that it could be a spectrum. And then how did I come out as non-binary? Pretty much through that video that I put out on Instagram in like July. What are my preferred pronouns? Usually feminine, honestly, partially because it's easier, and I suppose most days I wake up being fine with feminine pronouns, but also sometimes masculine. If you're not sure, you can ask me, but just to expand a little bit more on the bigender thing, there are days and instances where I feel like a woman, and then days and instances where I feel like a man, and then the pronouns fit, but I won't be mad at you if you use the wrong one. I will just correct you. What is the biggest misconception people have had or do have of you? A really big misconception that a lot of people have of me, especially if they only know what they've seen on Instagram, is that I'm really masculine, and I'm not. I guess I look masculine because of my face and the way that I dress, but I'm actually like super feminine. Like I'm a little fairy princess, and usually my voice is like really high pitched like this because everything excites me. So I'm actually really feminine in my day-to-day interactions despite my style. Okay, this next group of questions is about hormones. So somebody asked me, what's it like being on hormones and actually not taking anything? And then, was I born this androgynous, or am I taking a low dose of tea? Have I thought about it? Etc, etc. I have thought about it because I really do like how my body looks when I have a little bit more muscle mass and look a little bit more masculine, but I find that if I stay on the more feminine side of things, it makes androgyny either way a little bit easier, so I probably won't end up taking hormones. Also because I don't really want my voice to drop and I don't want to get facial hair. Have I used a binder? Do I have any recommendations? How did it feel? I have used a binder. I actually just bought it on Amazon. I think I like Googled binders and I got one that was super cheap. It wasn't awesome, but it worked. I don't really use binders anymore. What I do when I'm going out as a man, I use KT tape and I just tape my breasts back so it gives the illusion of pecs. But I know that people with larger chests really find that binders are helpful, so I don't know, I went on Amazon. I know that there are some really good companies out there that sell great ones, so this is a question that I would defer to the rest of my non-binary community. Do I want top surgery at some times in my lifetime? Why or why not? This is also something I've thought about and I've talked about with Rebecca a little bit. I'm kind of into that idea. I am not emotionally attached to my breasts like at all. I'd probably be really, really fine with getting rid of them, but also top surgery is really expensive and I'm okay with them because I figured out how to cover them up and do whatever I need to do to make myself feel comfortable on days where I don't feel feminine, so that's like a maybe thing. Do I use the same name for both genders? No, I don't. Maya is my name when I'm a woman, and then I do have another name when I'm a man, but I don't think I'm ready to give it out to everybody yet. How did my family react to me coming out as gay and bi gender? How did I tell them? My coming out story is like a whole nother video. But I came out when I was young. I came out when I was probably 12, I think. I was 12 or 13. And they reacted fine. I mean, it took a little bit of time. My dad took a lot longer. My mom was pretty awesome pretty quickly. And then in terms of me coming out as bi gender, I actually came out last night at dinner to my dad, kind of accidentally. And he took it fine. He didn't really ask a lot of questions. Same with my mom. So I think that they're just kind of at a point where they realize that I'm an adult. And also they haven't really been exposed to these kinds of things before. So luckily they're of the mindset like, oh, you're my child and I'm gonna love you no matter what. How do I like to come out to people? Casually. In terms of coming out as gay, I usually just like mention that I like tell a story with Rebecca in it, and then they're like, who's Rebecca? And I'm like, oh, that's my girlfriend. In terms of my gender, usually I'll just make like a comment about being non-binary, and then that sparks a conversation if they're interested in learning. When did I finally accept who I am and not who others wanted me to be? I don't know, I've always been a weirdo. Like, I was always strange from childhood. I was like a weird art kid and loved it. I don't know, I think that it's like always an ongoing process. I have a lot of insecurities, everybody does, with myself, fitting in, not fitting in, blah, blah, blah. Like, a lot of my answers to these questions are gonna be, it's all a process and it takes time. So I don't know if I've like finally accepted who I am, because I'm still trying to figure out who I am in some ways, because like who I am now, I don't know, is this who I'm gonna be in 50 years? What are my favorite clothing brands? I really like H&M, actually. H&M Men's is awesome. Is that where the shirt is from? Probably. This might be Urban Outfitters. So H&M, Express, some Urban Outfitters, a Werewolf, duh, I rep them. What hair products do I use? So for a while I was using Fiber by Crew, and then I went to Rough Rider by Kevin Murphy, and I'm currently using, it's this funny name, Mesmerizing by Got to Be Glued, like that's in right now. I know my hair is being a little bit funky this morning, but whatever. How did I meet Rebecca? Where did we go on our first date? Rebecca and I met through Instagram, and on our first date we got coffee and then we drove to New Hampshire and we're in the car for like 5 or 6 hours together just talking. What's my favorite thing to do with my girlfriend? Sleeping in is lovely. Rebecca and I have opposite schedules. Oh, we have an alarm going off. Rebecca and I have opposite schedules, so she's a bartender, so I don't really see her. I see her in the middle of the night when she comes home, and that's pretty much it, and then weekends in the morning. So my favorite thing to do is probably just spend lazy weekend mornings with her. That's really nice. I'm also really into traveling with her. She is an incredible traveler and really, really, really fun to go places with. And also, we've only done this a few times, but like taking the dogs on adventures also makes me really happy. How old am I? I am in my 20s. What's my sign? The only reason that I know all these things is because Deborah is obsessed with astrology. I am a Virgo sun, Scorpio moon, and Gemini rising. Am I bisexual? No, I identify as a lesbian. What's my YouTube name? I think it's Maya Noir, but I don't really understand YouTube because you don't really seem to have usernames. And do I like dogs? Yes, of course I like dogs. What's my favorite kind of dog? Well, my little potatoes, the two dogs that I live with, Shih Tzus, but I also really like Huskies, and I grew up with a lot of kinds of dogs. I grew up with boxers and a Shetland sheepdog and a German Shepherd Chow mix, so I also really like those. What advice do I have to someone in their 30s who believed that they were straight their whole life and is now realizing that they're gay? Good for realizing it. That's awesome. Get excited to go and learn new things about yourself and recognize that the fact that you didn't know that you were gay before is totally fine, and any experiences that you had with men prior are absolutely valid, and it's okay because a lot of people figure it out a lot later in life, and I mean in your 30s is not even a lot later in life, and everything's gonna be okay. How did you become so confident with your body? How did you find confidence? Have I always been this way? No, I was not always confident with my body. I used to be very, very insecure about it, and then I joined sports and got in a little bit better shape. Not that that should be an indicator of whether or not you are confident about your body. And I don't know, like again, I think it was just an over time thing. I started, also the fact that I like looked stronger, and I really like that. As an athlete, I just felt like, you know, I worked for this and I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of everything that I do, and obviously my body is a part of who I am, and so I want to be able to show that off. How has my life changed after I became empowered about my gender and sexuality? Do I feel that my social media presence makes things easier or harder? I think, how's my life changed? I'm gonna focus on the social media aspect. I think that both. I think it's made it easier because I feel really connected to people who are similar to me and people who can educate me. I was talking about this with Rebecca recently. It is hard sometimes answering all of your questions because it can take like an emotional toll because you guys are asking really hard things sometimes, and I want to make sure that I give you my full attention. And do the best that I can to help. So I think that's my answer. What's my ab workout? Currently, I actually don't have one. I run and I do lifts for my arms and shoulders and I box, but I did used to be a fanatic a couple of years ago, and I ran track for 10 years and I used to do hundreds and hundreds of sit-ups a night, every night. So I think that I'm just fortunate and that muscle hasn't gone away yet. So that is why I still have abs, not because I actively work on them. How can I make my parents understand that I'm a lesbian? I've told them a few times and they still think that it's a phase. I feel like I have dog hair on me. There's a dog here too. I think that if they're in denial, there's not much that you can do, unfortunately. I think that it sucks that your parents aren't listening to what you're telling them, but also you have to just live your own life. What are you hoping is going to change a generation from now within society regarding what's acceptable? Obviously, since most of what I focus on is gender and sexuality, I hope that the concept of being non-binary and having more than two genders and people who flow between those two is like totally normal. I mean, we're just starting to normalize being gay, and we're also just starting to bring being trans into almost common conversation. So I'm hoping that that's something that becomes more acceptable. What do I think our education system needs more of? Okay, I actually thought about this one, and I don't know if this is a good answer, but I wish that when I was younger and in middle school and high school, I had more opportunities to study philosophy, because obviously it's good that we're teaching kids math and science and English and art and everything else, but I really, really wanted more opportunities to think, not even creatively, but to, I guess, understand theories about humanity more. And I think that we don't offer that to younger people because we underestimate their abilities to understand those things, and I think that we should give younger people more credit. What's the hardest I've ever laughed? I don't have an answer for this because I laugh all the time at like everything, so I honestly cannot think of a specific incident where I was like laughing my ass off. How did I start modeling, and what would I recommend to aspiring queer models? I started modeling when I was 14. I was signed by Elite when I lived in Chicago, which is where I am right now, making this video, visiting my parents. And I didn't do a ton of work with them because I was in school. And then I just got re-signed with Maggie Models, who are based in Boston. And in terms of like the stuff that I do on Instagram, that's not like official modeling. That's not like through an agency, if that's what official modeling means. But like the brands that I work with, honestly, I just reach out to queer brands and ask them if they need promoters or representatives. A few of them have reached out to me. I think that that's a really good way to get started, and also to just become a little bit more connected with the community and small businesses. Why do I think androgyny is so often closely linked with sexuality? I think, like, as in androgynous women, for instance, usually being homosexual. I think that it's because queer people are more open to challenging the ideas of what makes somebody feminine or masculine, whereas straight people, unfortunately, and I'm not speaking for all straight people because the person who submitted this question is, well, dating a man, I don't know if she's straight, they usually fall more into the feminine or masculine expectations, whether or not they are realizing it or feel pressured by it, etc., etc. And then I got a bunch of questions from Rebecca. So I'm actually going to end with these. What is my Harry Potter house? Slytherin. Do I love Rebecca so much or the most? The most. The absolute most. Do I have any tattoos? No, I don't. I also don't have any piercings. What's your favorite number? 17. How many moms do you have? I have so many moms. Like, so many. Like, more than probably anyone. Where did I grow up? I grew up in the Chicagoland area. Where would I like to travel? Everywhere. But if you're looking for a specific place for us to go next, Rebecca, I really want to go to Shanghai, and I really want to go to Hong Kong. And what color gummy bears are my favorite? I don't know. Honestly, I feel like most gummy bears taste the same, and I'm sure I'm gonna get pushback for that. But I feel like some Haribo gummy bears have like a, maybe it's not Haribo, but somebody has like a pina colada flavor. So that one is probably my favorite. So yeah, those are all the questions I got. If I missed any, let me know. I tried really hard to answer every single question that got submitted to me. I need to make another video expanding upon the answers I didn't really give long answers to, questions I didn't give long answers to, and thank you guys for having an interest in my opinions, and I support you.